disease, soil, drought. Each season bringing new challenges farmers hope they won't face. Agriculture reporter Marcia Gorel follows the successes and failures of Saline County crops. She and University of Missouri Extension agronomist Wayne Crook will look at what's stunting local growth, what nudges farmers closer to productive harvest, and the science behind mid-Missouri fields.
Welcome to the 6th edition of Crop Concerns for Video. I'm here with Wayne Crook, our University of Missouri Extension agronomist, and today we're going to talk about several subjects. It's November, and we've finished up harvest, and we're getting ready to go into winter and make some decisions for 2012. Wayne, one of the things that several people have talked about this year is as people were combining soybeans, they came in very dry. Usually we start at 15% and they get down to 10%. But this year it seemed like people were bringing in their first load and they were 8%, really dry. And then people were still having a tough time combining because they said the stems were so green. What makes that happen, and what's...
Basically what happened this year was that we ran out of water in the heat. And part of what a soybean plant does, when it runs out of some kind of nutrient or water, it starts to abort flowers. And when these flowers are aborted, then the plant keeps trying to grow and will fill what seed's there. But because of the potential of the plant, it doesn't have enough seeds to put its carbohydrates into. So the stems stay green and the leaves hang on. And a lot of producers just didn't go out and check. If you have a green looking field, why would you think it's ready to cut?
Right.
And I think they were in the middle of corn harvest or had corn harvest started good. And by the time they got around to checking beans and found out that they were too dry, it was just past the ideal moisture to harvest.
I see. Well, some people said that it made a difference because of the fungicides. Did that have anything to do with it, making the stems green and the plants healthier?
The fungicide protects the plant. We actually had very little disease this year to protect the plant from, but it will keep anything from coming into it when it starts to deteriorate. But I still think the extra carbohydrates that the plant produced that it had no seed to put the carbohydrate into was probably the major factor, and the fungicide contributed to keeping it green after that.
Okay. In your weekly column that you write for the Democrat News, you talked about reconditioning soybeans in your bin because they were so dry. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's an article I ran across the other day, and they're saying that beans that come in 8 to 9% in a 40 bushel bean crop, you're going to lose about $25 an acre in income off of that because of the lack of moisture. Now, since soybeans are eventually going to be a food product, adding water to them is defined as adulterating a food product and is illegal. But if you run the fans on the bin so that you can add moisture to it, that's not illegal. That just happens naturally. And the main thing to do is you just need to run the bins and fans in certain times at certain days to get the moisture into them. Now, one thing you want to do is you need to run the fans when the humidity is 70% or above, if you have stirring augers in the bin, because the moisture does not move through the bin uniformly, and you're going to form a re-wetting zone. In that re-wetting zone, the beans may actually pick up more moisture than they can safely be stored at. So you need some way to mix the dry beans and wet beans together, and stirring augers are real good for that.
Okay. Is there anything else you need to look out for, especially if the beans start to swell too much, or?
Yeah, as everybody knows, whenever beans get wet and they start to swell, they can put pressure on the sides of the grain bin. There's two ways to manage that. You can either have the stirring augers that will mix the wet with the dry beans, or else you can take beans out of the bin on occasionally so you can get the wet beans out and prevent the pressure from building up. Also, how you re-wet the beans, if they are reconditioned too fast, they're going to absorb more moisture quicker, and you got more chance of them expanding quicker. If it happens at lower moisture levels and the re-wetting occurs slower, then you won't have as much of a chance, and you can watch it easier that way.
Okay. Well, as we get ready, well, as soon as we get done combining, we start thinking about 2012.
Mhm.
So I know now's the time that people are starting to think about ordering seed for next year. Can you talk about a little bit about the different corn hybrids and soybean varieties that are out there and some of the choices that farmers can make?
One of the big things coming out in corn, I'll talk about it first, is refuge in the bag. Because the last few years, they've had to plant a refuge to use the genetic characters they have in order to help preserve the character.
Right.
The new corn that's coming out, they've got the refuge included in the bag, so you don't have to plant the refuge separately. And one of the problems we had, I've heard people say they have, is the refuge doesn't yield as well as the other
Right.
corn.
Never does. Yeah.
Well, with putting the refuge in the bag, you're having those refuge plants scattered throughout the whole field. So the plants that are next to that refuge plant have a chance to compensate for that one plant if it doesn't produce as well. So this should help pick up some yield overall on the field, plus make planting a lot easier, and also make compliance with the refuge just automatic, and they don't have to worry about separate refuge strips.
So they just have to get a certain number of bags of refuge in the bag, depending on the amount of acres, or is everything?
That comes from the company already in the bag. They don't have to
Okay.
do anything but buy that particular hybrid with it in the bag and just plant like it used to before we had all the genetic traits.
Okay, that'll help keep it separate out.
Yeah.
What about one of the things that I've heard people say is genetics make yield, but traits protect yield? Can you
Right.
tell us a little bit about that and some of the traits people should be looking for, especially here in Saline County?
That's one sentence I heard that I thought just was rather prophetic. Because basically, if the plant does not have the genetic capability to produce yield, all the traits are not going to help a bit. So you need to make sure that when you select a hybrid, you need to know what traits you need. You don't need to buy everything just because it's available. And especially with the cost of having each trait, you ought to limit which traits you buy. And then go back and look at yield tests both through state and from private yield plots and from strip tests and evaluate the data. And one of the problems we have is you need more than 1 year of data to make the whole thing work. Some of these hybrids only last 3 or 4 years. By the time you get 3 or 4 years, data is not available.
Right.
So look at data in other states. Look at test plots. Look at the state trials. Look at any private trials. There's some companies that conduct private trials,
Right.
and you can get every source of data. If you can, evaluate the data and try and get data that has growing conditions similar to what you've already got, so the data will be more applicable.
Well, talking about the corn varieties and the soybean varieties, I saw on the door on the way in, we're here at the University Extension office in Marshall, and I saw that the corn yield books are in. Are those free for producers or?
Yeah, they're free. You just have to come to the office. You can pick them up. We just got them in the office on Monday, so they're fresh.
Okay.
The same data from the book is available online at the AgWeb website.
Okay.
And all the data for the soybeans is also on the AgWeb website.
Okay.
But I would expect the books would be out fairly quick, but they aren't out right now.
Okay. Well, that'll be great. How about anhydrous? I noticed that it's starting to dry up. I'm starting to see some tanks around town. Is it a good time to put on anhydrous right now? It's middle of November.
Soil temperature is finally getting down a little bit. It's still running around 50 in the high, but the 20-degree temperatures and the cooler temperatures that are predicted will be about right. Since we're still close to that 50 degrees, it might be good to put a nitrogen inhibitor on it, such as N-Serve.
Okay.
Will help protect it. We've got enough moisture so we don't have to worry about losing the nitrogen as much as we would have a couple of weeks ago trying to put it on in that dry soil.
Okay.
Probably can't get the equipment in the ground now where you couldn't a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
But it is a good opportunity. There's very few people that have started putting anhydrous on. Supplies are good right now. So
Okay.
they should have easy access to the anhydrous and to the equipment to get it on.
Okay, and I've been told the prices are flat right now, so they're not going to go up
Well,
today.
Producers have the opportunity to lock in their prices right now for fall application if they want to. I haven't really heard of anybody giving a price for spring application yet, but it's probably going to be higher.
Okay.
But if they were concerned about the price, they could lock it in and then put it on.
Okay,
and I'm sure it may save them a little money on the price of the anhydrous.
okay. We had rain a couple weeks ago, Wayne, and we had a couple inches rain. Before that, it had been really dry. And some people have been concerned that it's going to be a dry winter. And is there a problem with crops? Do we need to worry if we're not getting a lot of moisture this winter, or does it just matter that we get rain during the growing season?
I looked at the long-range forecast from NOAA, and they've got the northern part of the United States has got a better chance than average of having above average precipitation. South of us, they've got a better than average chance of being drier. We're in the middle where you could flip a coin and be as good as their guess is right now.
Okay.
We got a 50-50 chance of being wetter or drier right now.
Okay.
La Nina is still causing some problems from the west, and they're going to have to see how that develops and how the jet stream develops. Overall, I think they're probably, in general, predicting maybe a bad winter like we had last winter, and we have a chance of having a wetter than normal spring. But if you remember from this year, about I-70 was kind of dividing the line of who lasted, who got good rain and who didn't.
Right.
So if it moves 10 miles, you could really be in trouble if you're in that area.
Yeah, I know some people in that area. Well, thank you, Wayne. I appreciate it. And thank you to Central Missouri Agri-Service, which sponsors this video. And thank you also to our videographer, Sarah Reed, who also edits all our videos and puts it together for us. And so thank you again for watching this 6th edition of Crop Concerns for Video. Thank you.